Hello and welcome to episode 1 of The Depot Show, a StarCraft or gaming podcast talk show. I am Joro, a high diamond low masters player, and with me I have...
Hello, my name is Exo. I'm a legit low master, high diamond player. I've got the master's badge, but I do actually only manage to be diamond players and not actual master players. 4.3 MMR for life.
And that's where we shall remain. Okay, so to give a little context, me and Exo have been playing StarCraft 2 for a long time. I myself have been playing it since Wings of Liberty. Exo, I'm pretty sure you have been playing it since Wings of Liberty.
Yeah, 2011.
Cool. And we've decided to start up a little talk show and talk about relevant things in the scene, anything we wanted to. This particular episode is going to be a bit about Valencia and a bit of fun. Right? I hope I hope it's going to be fun. Okay.
It's going to be really fun.
So, let's dive right in. Let's talk about Valencia. So the first thing we kind of wanted to do was go over the map pool, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So,
which is the same as the ladder map pool.
Yes. So in the ladder map pool, so we have a couple of maps. We have 16-bit, we have Acid Plant, Catalyst, Dreamcatcher, Lost and Found, Redshift, and Darkness Sanctuary. So we will go through these in alphabetical order, starting with 16-bit. So, let's talk about this map a little bit. Exo, do you want to start?
Oh, man.
So do you want to, okay, to give you a general concept of this map, I would say this is a large map. It has two naturals, let's say. One inside of your main base and one outside of your main base with destructible rocks. It has a very easily accessible fourth base. And the fifth base is a bit harder to take. But it's still possible. So I would call this a very large macro map, right?
Yeah, that is the one.
Cool. Yeah, take it away, Exo. What are your thoughts on this map?
Well, the macro dream is always a thing in StarCraft. We always want to have good maps that will allow us to be able to play long macro games, the good back and forth games. But 16-bit is a shortcut to that. It is not very good.
Okay. So you want to take us through some of your thinking?
Yeah, so the main issue with something like 16-bit is that, and this used to be a feature that happened a lot. If you've been in the scene for a while, you know that pocket bases were kind of like a gimmick on maps, where it's like it's basically a free base. You don't have to do anything to defend it, really.
Yeah, this was like a very popular thing for map makers to do in like Heart of the Swarm type era, right?
Yeah, that was there was always one in the map pool, at least. I think sometimes we even had two. And the maps were even bigger than this. Like Terminus, LE, that had like ridiculous. That was like huge. So yeah, these bases are kind of painful because it's supposed to promote a macro game, and it kind of does, but it ends up being very easily droppable. So it ends up being like a very heavily exploited part. Then you also have this whole sort of focus on trying to get up to 3 bases.
Yeah.
And, oh man, it should be a good thing, but it's not.
Yeah.
I always think it's gonna be good.
I kind of agree with you here. So like, as you say, like, the dream is to get up like a good macro game, get a good 3 bases, like prepare your fourth, and like get into a good game. But I don't see this as the map where like I play most macro games.
Yeah.
I actually have this map vetoed, mostly because of the drop potential in that pocket expansion. It's really weird because like as a Terran player, I probably should like this map more than I do. Because of like Liberators, there's a lot of dead space behind like a lot of the expansions here.
Yeah.
So that means like good drop potential, good Liberator potential. So I think I, as a Terran player, should like this map, but I don't. And I think it is because of this pocket expansion. I've never personally been a big fan of the pocket expansions, especially when they were at their height. Good thing about this map, though, is that if you take the pocket expansion, there's not a lot like Blink Stalkers can do.
As long as the Blink Stalkers can't fuck us over, we're all right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, and to echo that, it feels like the map is also very large. It takes a long while to walk across the map, which eliminates some the possibility of doing some more strategies around rushing.
Well, interestingly, this isn't the largest map on the map pool. Like, something like this is usually like the biggest map on the map pool, but we've actually got a 4-player map in this map pool, which we'll get onto a bit later.
I was gonna say, what map are you talking about?
So it's really interesting because, like, this is probably one of the biggest maps that I've seen in quite a while, but, like, the 4-player map that we'll talk about a bit later, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But,
well, yeah, just to go over some of the other big features of this map, or at least how the features are used, and how we'll probably see in Valencia as well. As we've already mentioned, the heavy drop play is a big thing. If we see this map at all, actually, it might get vetoed out of existence. But generally, each race, this is kind of one of those maps that has compromises, and compromises that no one likes. So it's a big map, so you think it'd be good for Zergs, but Zergs don't seem to like it very much. It's got this droppable terrain, so Terran should like it, but they don't like it. And it's got a free base, so Protoss should like it, but Protoss don't like it either. This is just one of those maps where...
Yeah, I think, most people agree that this isn't, like, the best map in this map pool. But it feels like each race should like it, but there's a reason as to why they wouldn't, which feels really strange.
I think we won't see too much of this map in Valencia, and what we do of it, it might be meching Terrans. That's one of the use cases for it.
Yeah, mech is really good on this map, especially because you can get those 3 bases super early.
Well, and even that 4th.
Like the dream for mech is to get those 4 bases. Once you get those 4 bases, you can really power out like a massive army and like keep backfilling it with with bio. Like 2-3 bases is fine, but with mech you really need that 4th base.
You certainly do.
Cool.
So that's how many times do you think we'll see this map in the?
I don't think too much. I think if they can veto it, I think they will. I don't think like too many people will like to play on this map. I think there's too much counter paths. There's too much drop potential. There's just there's too much to think about in a competition style event.
Yeah.
So
I think this is often why we see pros not like the map pool when they're like the map pools with some quirks or something different. They're often a little bit more against it.
Yeah, definitely.
For this sort of exact reason. So what's the next map?
So the next map is Acid Plant.
Acid Plant. Now this one has been sitting in for a season and a bit, hasn't it?
Yeah. So general thoughts about this map. So this map is kind of a standard map, I would say, these days. So it has 4, I'd say, pretty easy to take bases. Not as easy as 16-bit. But you have like a choice of thirds. So there's the one on the... so I'm looking at the top left base here. There's one to the right which has the ramp down. And there's one to the left which has the other base to the left. These are bad descriptors, but if you look at an image of the map, you kind of get what I'm getting at.
Yeah, and I think what's important to highlight here is that the main difference it provides is that you can expand in a straight line, or you can expand in like a cluster. So you can kind of... So for Protoss, and what I often do is we'll take the third that is kind of tucked away, and that way Blink Stalkers can blink between the main and the third, and that way it sort of deflects drops a bit more. But obviously, the more clustered your bases are with ramps, with stuff like that, with ledges, Terran drop play can become stronger. So
Yeah,
you have to
definitely.
like weigh up your categories.
Yeah, it's really interesting because like with Terran, with mech play, I seem to cluster my bases, whereas with bio, I seem to like almost expand towards my opponent.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah, this map is really good for like both options, I think.
yeah, and that there's a fifth base right outside, kind of directly in front of the natural, a bit like halfway down the map in front of the
Yeah, so
natural.
this base is quite
On the low
interesting because it's on the low ground, right?
Yeah,
Which means that you kind of have to defend like this awkward position where the opponent almost has the advantage
yeah.
when attacking in, because they obviously have the high ground, and the high ground is always advantageous in strategy games. And of course, like you have these gold bases, and I don't know about you, but I'm not a fan of gold bases, but I am actually a fan of the gold bases on this map because like they are very high risk, and I think
Yeah.
this is like how gold bases should be, is like very very high risk but very very high reward. I dislike maps where they've got a gold base for the third base, let's say.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, because it ends up with being your kind of sixth base if you go one,
Yeah,
two,
yeah.
3, 4. Oh, maybe you can make it as your fifth if you wanted to just go in like a line.
I mean, yeah, you
Um,
could make it as your third if you wanted to, but it's very risky, and I wouldn't suggest it, but because it is dead center of the map. But
yeah,
I think what I enjoy about this map is that there is a long drop distance into your main base. If you kind of have a look at like the theme of the map, between like where you can pick up and where you drop in the middle mineral line, there is actually like quite a big space. So there's like I don't see too much drop play on this map. I don't know about you.
I mean, I open a heavy Blink Stalker style versus Terran, especially
Okay.
on maps like this. So my playstyle generally discourages the drop rate. But do you mean like if you load up at if you load up somewhere, you can then like fly straight to the main, or you have to fly over a lot of ground before you can land in the mineral line?
You have to fly over a lot of ground before you hit the mineral line.
Yeah. Which is so it's very easy to have a pylon sort of set up
Yeah, definitely.
and have vision of
Yeah,
that
way
area.
before it actually hits your mineral line.
Wait, why do you like that? Isn't that a bad thing for drops?
It's just hard to play against drops.
Oh yeah.
I like abusing drops, but when they're against me, I don't like them so much.
Oh, but you know what it means. If there's a lot of ground between where sort of like where you can pick up and where you can drop, that means a doom drop can be picked up and drop all in there.
Yeah, no, that's in TVT. That's happened to me so many times. Like 8 medevacs just boost into my base, and like there's literally nothing you can do about it because that army is now in your main base, and like, what can you do?
No, what can you do?
There is quite a lot of dead space behind the mineral lines, especially for like the first, second, and third base, like the main, natural, and third. If you like go clockwise, I guess, with your expansions,
Yeah.
which is quite good for like Liberator play. I know against yourself, Exo, I've kind of placed a Liberator there, and there's like there's enough dead space that the Liberator can live all game long, and unless you go like a Sky, like
Yeah.
a Void Ray or a Phoenix, there's nothing really you can do about it.
Yeah, the big difference between like Acid Plant and 16-bit for that kind of thing is that on 16-bit it's very free for the Liberator to fly in and then like be able to set up immediately on the mineral patches. Where in this, the Liberator has to commit past the mineral patches in order to get to that sweet spot,
Yes.
and that does make it really good. Do you know what? I actually haven't had many Terrans go ranged Liberator on me.
Oh
and
wow.
stick
I'm actually really surprised about that. I feel that
Yeah,
ranged Liberator will be really strong on this map.
I have not had a lot of that, which yeah is very interesting. But yeah, there are definitely some nooks and crannies that they hover about in. I've had one game which came down to the gold base in the kind of bottom left, where it was a really crazy game versus a meching Terran, and it came back to us just fighting over this base in the bottom left. Like pretty much everywhere else was mined out. It was like a 35-minute game, which I won, thankfully.
Those Terran tears.
Man, you can't take it for granted, man. He like landed and started muling it. Tempests all over that shit.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, cool. I guess
another quick feature about this map, just to go into like the competitive play we might see on Valencia.
Yeah.
At the third, if you would take the third base in a straight line, or if you're talking about that base, you can put siege tanks there, and it can hit the back of the natural. So there's a bit of a siege tank abusive position that you can do there. You don't see it too often, but it's definitely possible. And aside from that, there's a lot of ramps and low ground and high ground sort of stuff. So spreading creep can be sometimes a little bit slower for Zergs.
Yeah, I find this with a lot of maps in the current map pool and previous map pools in Legacy of the Void, is that there is like a lot of like close third bases to second base or natural bases. Yeah. And there's a lot of like spaces where siege tanks can like hit the natural base mineral line, and in TVT it's disgusting.
The one other thing I will say about this map, again, not super competitive thing, but something that I always seem to come up with, is that it's really hard to take a hidden base on this one, because the bases are so close together. These corner bases are kind of weird.
Yeah.
But it feels that they're in such an obvious position. If the opponent doesn't go right through the middle of the map, they're going to see them. And it seems like every base has a lot of visibility. Yes. I have had one Terran opponent miss the fact that I took the center base as my
Oh, interesting.
Which was it was hilarious that he didn't see it. Like, because all game long he was like running past it, and he never actually saw it. Which so it does happen. But yeah, it's super interesting. Little map. Asplan, solid map.
Solid map. I think we'll see a lot of this at Valencia, to be honest. I think like this is like one of the standard maps in this map pool. And I wouldn't be surprised if it carries over to the next ladder season, to be honest.
Yeah. Wouldn't surprise me as well.
Cool. So moving on to Catalyst.
Catalyst Day.
Yeah. So again, this is much like Acid Plant. So we have a straightforward expansion route, and we have a clockwise expansion route. We have actually got destructible rocks on this map, which blocks one of the attack paths into the natural and third base, but not the other path. And we've got destructible rocks kind of placed around the map to kind of make counterattacks more deadly, and for bigger units to squeeze through those tiny ramps a little easier. Again, I think this is kind of like a really good standard map to look at. If I was going to like introduce someone to a StarCraft 2 map, like this is probably like the map.
Yeah, this has been in the map pool for a while now as well.
Yeah, I think it's been like 2-3 ladder seasons, right?
Yeah, very possibly. It sounds like something
almost as bad as Daybreak, if you remember that. That was possibly in like the ladder season for like 7 or something.
Amazing map. That was an amazing map.
I think back in the day, yeah, I would have agreed with you. In Legacy of the Void, it is a very much rush map. If you remember back, sorry, I know we're going off of Catalyst a bit, but if you remember back to the Dream Pool.
Oh man, amazing.
Back in Legacy of the Void, and I believe Daybreak was on there, and I thought, oh, Daybreak, I used to love this map. Like, this is the map that I learned to play mech on, and I used to really like that map. But like in Legacy of the Void, like the rush distances are so short that everyone just rushes. Like, it is not a macro map whatsoever, but it used to be, like in Heart of the Swarm and Wings. Anyway,
bad, man. Bad.
Back to Catalyst.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what do you think of this map?
Again, this one I wouldn't call it boring. by any means, but it's very standard. It's very played out, and that means that we get a lot of people who like know what they want to do on it, which
Yeah,
is
definitely. I think
generally,
this.
I think, a good thing.
Yeah, I think this map is very well mapped out, if you don't mind the pun. Yeah, people know their strategies, know what they're going to go for.
Yeah.
3-4 bases are not impossible on this map. Fourth base being on the low ground, most probably, and then.
Do you know what? I often take it as a line in this map. I don't know why.
Okay.
You know, I talked about like taking the third with blink stalkers in a cluster.
Yeah.
This map I do not do. I generally take a line. I'm not sure why.
I normally go like clockwise, so I normally like third base is clockwise, and then like fourth base is straight down onto the low ground there in the center, and then fifth base, if I get that far, is normally like way round past the destructible rocks, and then I've got like a good cluster of like 5 bases that are kind of easily defendable.
Yeah.
Like at that point, you need like a good amount of sensor towers and stuff if you're a Terran player, or a good amount of observers if you're a Protoss player.
Yeah, and generally this is again very basic kind of map in the sense that there are 3 main paths. Actually, I suppose they divide off into 5 because you can go all the way around. So there's actually quite a few like attack paths on this map.
Yeah, definitely.
And you have to keep watch those. I've had a few like kind of passing in the night. What I especially like as a subtle little detail is that the main path through the center has this really narrow choke with vision obscuring bushes. So it's actually hard to do a big army move out. That's a real subtle thing that is great about this map.
Yeah, this is what I was alluding to with the destructible rocks. So with that ramp going down, there's like destructible rocks on there. So if like you're like me and like to mech, it takes a long time for your mech army to get onto the low ground. So like you probably want to be clearing those out if you're that way inclined, I guess.
And again, Zergs can often do this for a fast Ling pathing, even though Lings are quite quick anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I say, very standard map, good stuff on that one.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, again, this will get a lot of play at Valencia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably going to be the most played map.
Probably, yes. I wouldn't put it past it. Okay, so next is the 4-player map that I was talking about before.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about Darkness Sanctuary. And let's talk about why I vetoed this map. Okay, so this is a huge map. I really don't remember a time when I had a map this big. I think the last time I saw a map this big in the ladder pool was probably back in Wings, with things like Whirlwind or something.
Oh yeah.
Because Whirlwind was bigger than this. Like Whirlwind was actually like a 6-player map, but
oh yeah, forgot about that.
Yeah, it was crazy, like crazy big. But yeah, this has a lot of like counter-attack paths. It has like kind of 4 easy to take bases, but after that it's really difficult, I'd say, for any race but Zerg to take a 5th. And if you are going to take a 5th, it's very difficult for your opponent to attack into that 5th without committing quite a lot to that attack. I know I've certainly had games on this map where I've basically won games because my opponent has attacked a 5th base and has been hideously out of position, and I've stimmed into his main and knocked out all of his production.
See, that's where you're wrong though, Joro, because the part where you're going wrong there is you've had games on this map.
No doubt. Yeah, I don't know what to say about this map. I think it will get a lot of play at Valencia, but the reason, so TVT, it's bad because, I'm talking mostly about cross spawns right now, but TVT cross spawns, it will probably go late game, and late game TVT is not a fantastic matchup to watch. Like,
I actually want.
sorry.
Go on, yeah. No, late game TVT is a pain in the ass to watch. I'm sure you've got plenty to talk about with TVT later on.
I certainly will. Don't you worry. Late game ZVZ, late game TVP. It was interesting actually. I think at what was the recent tournament? Sorry.
Home Story Cup.
Home Story Cup. Sorry, that kind of blanked. I think Innovation was playing like a Protoss player, and the Protoss player went like 4 bases like really early. And Innovation kind of did like a couple of counter attacks and a couple of like one big attack, but after that he was kind of like he was out of the game, so he was just like turtling like really hard on this map and basically trying to get to like super late game.
Yes, I remember that. And actually he did that interesting thing where he was struggling to take a 5th, so he took the one of the other starting bases.
Yes, yeah.
And that was a really, really clever move. And that's actually what I want to talk about with how this map works. Is that because it's basically 4 corners of a map. If this was just like a 2-player map where you had cross spawns only, then the other corners could be like used more interestingly. But because it's set like this, and you can spawn in any of these, any variation of these locations. You get this weird thing that once you've taken your 4th base, you have to start taking exterior bases of another main.
Yeah,
and that's why it's so awkward. Because you have to cross a threshold, which can also be an attack path.
Yes.
In one matchup, if it's horizontal spawns on the bottom, the bit where if you were going to expand across the bottom, that like narrow path at the bottom, that's like your expansion path. But if you spawn there in those locations, that's actually an attack path.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Yeah.
Well, I think the funny thing about this map is that if you don't scout your opponent until like the last scout, especially for like Zerg who get 3 bases really early, they're actually in risk of like expanding towards their opponent, which is actually like really disadvantageous for Zerg, because they want to be like on like expanding away from their opponent.
Yeah, and I think. The sad thing about Darkness Sanctuary with this though is that I like the idea of 4-player maps, but I feel like it's like a whole different design challenge.
Yes.
For it to be like good, so I don't know. We struggle to see.
Yeah. As I say, like we don't see a lot of like 4-player maps now, and I think it's just because of like the changes that they introduced with Legacy of the Void. You know, the whole like mineral gathering mechanic in Legacy of the Void is so much different to like Heart of the Swarm, and I think like 4-player maps now just don't work the same way, and we haven't experimented around enough with 4-player maps to know what a good 4-player map looks like in Legacy.
Yeah, and again, like because pros don't like randomness, as it were. So the fact that this is like essentially 2 different maps. If you get cross spawn versus vertical spawn versus horizontal spawn, like you have to play different styles.
Yeah. The one good thing about this map, the only good thing about this map is that you can go command center first and probably get away with it.
That is Zerg's 12 pool, man.
Yeah, like I can't think of another singular good thing about this map. Like it is a macro map, but it is a disadvantageous macro map to anyone but Zerg, I believe. But in my opinion, like we'll probably see a lot of this at Valencia, but I don't think the pro players will enjoy their time on Darkness Sanctuary.
Yeah, well, once it gets to the round of 16, which is tomorrow, most I believe, like they are going to be all best of 5. So again, the chances of seeing this map are definitely
definitely high. It'd be interesting to watch. I probably won't be as interested in those games just because the map is quite large, but you know, we'll see. Okay,
we will see.
Yeah, let's forget about Darkness Sanctuary for a minute. Let's talk about let's talk about Dreamcatcher.
Yes.
So Dreamcatcher, another like kind of good standard map. again, much like Catalyst and Acid Plant, you have like the 3-4 easily takeable bases. This map is kind of unique in that you have the destructible rocks outside of your natural, which can fall down. Interestingly, you only have to kill one of the destructible rocks for both of them to fall down, and have like only 2 attack paths into your base.
Yeah.
There is this awkward attack path in the center of the map that is like blocked by destructible rocks all the way down. So like moving your army, you probably want to go to the left or right of this map.
Or you have to take time to destroy the...
yeah, which is even more awkward. Tell me your thoughts.
Again, this one is like, I think, a better map for like having it be a bit more differently designed, but also like interesting and not like completely broken, because you can take your 3 bases in kind of a vertical line, and again kind of a cluster, so very similar to as we've been talking about out before. I think one of the main interesting things about this one is that this is only sort of symmetrical in one way. It's sort of symmetrical on a kind of horizontal vertical kind of thing, like a slant, a diagonal, because it has gold bases in the top left, in the top right.
Yeah.
But in the bottom left, they are not gold bases, and they're actually further apart. So it's not perfectly symmetrical. There's more empty space in the bottom half of the map, and more resources essentially on the top half, or at least you can gather them more quickly. So I think there's, depending on what strategy you want to go for and how you want to move your units on this map, it gives a lot of flexibility, because again you can play a more defensive style and take down the central rocks, and then your opponent has to bust through not only the middle rocks to get through, but then also your rocks. So again, it's like 3 separate slowdowns without you having to do.
Yeah. It's interesting, actually. I didn't actually notice that the left side of this map, like the blue minerals, were actually further away than the gold bases. Oh man, you've just blown my mind.
Yeah, man. That's because no one takes these bases.
No, definitely not. I've certainly never taken these bases.
I have actually never taken the bottom left base. I have taken the other bases. I have not taken the bottom left at all, I don't think.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah, there's a reasonable amount of dead space between between the main and like, I don't know, the like directly south. If you're looking at the top left base, directly south there's like a lot of dead space, like directly west from the bottom base.
Which is interesting because it makes drop play on this map very, very good, is that dead space between those bases.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm saying actually, with Dreamcatcher, there is not a lot of space between like the edge of your main and the mineral line, so like if a Terran player like boosts some medevacs, you are not very likely to spot that before it does damage.
Yeah, very good point. There's also that weird like Reaper path where no, it does have to go up there. What am I talking about? No, never mind. Forget what I was saying.
This is I don't believe there's like only a few maps this season which have like weird Reaper paths that can get into your base. Like Catalyst is one where they have like an elevated platform that you can't really do too much about.
Yeah, you have to like put buildings there, and
it's really awesome. Which is so weird to see in some games where they like build their first structures right by that elevated platform just to stop the first Reaper coming in that way. But I don't believe
it's worth it.
Yeah, I'm not like a massive fan of it, to be honest. But yeah, I think like Dreamcatcher will have a lot of play.
The only other thing I don't like about this base, and I'm gonna add this map, and that is this weird thing, like, you know how like the top half of the base is where you put all your buildings, right? Like that's where the most space is in the base. It feels there is not a lot of space on this map.
Yeah, I was just about to mention this actually. Like I feel like this because again, this kind of like harks back to Heart of the Swarm, where like these really small main bases were like kind of becoming a norm at some point. And it was like really strange because like you couldn't really build too many things in your main, so it kind of like pushed you to expand. But interestingly on this map, there's not much room in the natural either. So,
No.
which is interesting. Like the most space is actually between like the third and the fourth. Like if you're going, clockwise near these bushes at the outside of your natural. So like, do I build my buildings there? Like
Maybe. One final thing to mention about this map that's really good. Again, Terran siege positions. There are these things
no.
all along. There are these things all along the map which are like ledges, but they're like completely impassable. You can fly over them, but you can't land anything on top of them or get on top of them in any way.
Yeah, mech on this map is very, very good for that reason. It is a very good point because you can like siege up behind these walls, and there's like, unless you have Vipers, there is literally nothing you can do about it. And
of course, Zerg has an answer. Zerg doesn't.
They have Voiders.
This man trolling me right here, going saying build Void Rays in PvT. What?
It makes mech TVZ very difficult to deal with just because of these like weird bushes, especially like if the Zerg or Terran has knocked down these rocks as well. It makes it like, it means that the Zerg would have to like exit one, like around one side of it and the other side of it to like close in on the Terran.
Yeah, get us around. Yeah.
It's
and
crazy.
Even then, it's like not that simple unless they run through like the middle of the map and then come all the way around. But...
Yeah. That is way too much time. Well, like siege tanks are like pounding away at your base.
Yeah, and Zerg players don't know how to like split and like it's fine.
What?
What? I didn't say anything. Alright, so yeah, that's anything else about Dreamcatcher? Go on.
I don't have anything else to say about Dreamcatcher. Want to move on to Lost and Found?
Lost and Found, yes.
Yeah.
The weirdest map name, sorry. I don't know where they got Lost and Found from, but...
No, I'm not too sure either, to be honest. But yeah, do you want to introduce this map? Kind of go through its mechanics and things?
Yeah. So again, similar to how we've been before with these, this is like a picturesque of how a standard map kind of should be in StarCraft, where it focuses very much on being able to get you 3 bases, mostly in a cluster on this one, because you can take it as a straight line. But it doesn't work as well because the third base, if you go in a straight line, is on the low ground. So it encourages to have a bit more of a cluster, but that works really well for it. So it ends up being a really interesting map to go for. Hang on.
Yeah, I think one thing I like about this map is that it has the diversity to be like a really quick game or a really long macro game. And I think this, this is one of the maps that, if I was going to introduce someone to, StarCraft 2 maps, I would probably show them this map and say, this is a really good StarCraft 2 map. Because, as I say, it has, the range to go from, cheesy game into macro game. And I think it's really strong. I think, the only awkward bases are the ones, completely north and completely south. Every other base on this map is perfectly defensible.
And that's it. I think all playstyles are viable on this. There's enough attack paths, and the map is windy enough that you can do a lot of kind of stuff. But it's not so confusing or so big that armies get lost on it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's awful if you miss an army coming across the map.
Definitely.
And that kind of doesn't happen on this one so much. I think my only complaint about it is that there's this weird bit in the kind of center, and if you're looking at it from the top side, how do I describe this? It's hard to describe. It's it looks like there should be it's a square, right? And only 2 of the sides you can get through, and there's destructible rocks in the middle. Jor, do you know what bit I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And sometimes I will walk down if I'm retreating. So let's say I'm attacking into the bottom left. I move back up this path. I move down the stairs and I keep microing back towards this back wall, expecting there to be stairs there. And then when I click back there, my units move forward to go up the stairs, which are actually like down below them now. It's really awkward. That's my own fault. It's technically not this map's fault, but that's my only problem with this map. And again, that's me. But yeah, you can play all play styles. You have a good options for taking a fourth. Both are harder to defend than the initial 3 bases, but not too hard. And then depending on which one you take, you have a reasonable sort of 5th base to take. Because if you take this 4th base that's on the low ground, you can now, I feel like you can then take the alternative 4th, and it's really safe. And
yeah.
if you take the
so interestingly, like what I see on this map is that Zerg players will actually take the low ground base as their 3rd base.
Because they're weird.
I think it's because of this ramp near the 3rd base, to be honest, because it gives them like high ground defending it.
Perhaps. I think it's more like about creep spread as well, because the like if you get one tumor here, like I think one tumor just outside the natural will then like cover onto the stairs, and then by the time you plant a hatch down, like the creep is basically connected.
Yeah.
With like one tumor. Where if you went for the other 3rd, you'd probably need 2, maybe even a 3rd. There might even be, I think even with 2 tumors, there might still be a little bit of a gap where the queens are slow and it's a bigger distance. So if you're just defending with queens, Zergs can take these 3 bases easier.
Yeah.
That'd be my guess, but the Zerg mind works in interesting ways. Is the one thing I haven't seen a lot of on this map is mech Terrans, like TVZ. Is there a lot of that? Have I just been not seeing it? Do you know? Do you try mech on this?
I do try mech on this. I mech every game versus Zerg, if I'm very honest. Because I kind of prefer that matchup, to be honest. I think that bio is like too intensive against Zerg. So mech is like kind of a more interesting game to me versus Zerg. I'm trying to remember if anyone like pro has gone like mech on this map. I can't remember anyone off the top of my head.
It's probably happened, but
it's probably happened. I'm just trying to think of the mechanics of the map, because like it's pretty easily defensible. There's no like standout reason that I can think of why you wouldn't go mech, because like normally things that you look for on the map where you wouldn't go mech is like wide open 3rds and like difficult to take 4ths. Whereas this map, like I feel that you like the 3rd isn't too open. You could probably take a 4th and like and you could probably take a 5th as well, like, and macro out from there.
I think that what makes this map, I don't want to say special, but makes it really, really good in my opinion, is that it's not a huge map, but it feels pretty big.
Yes. I think it's because of all of the, like how the map is laid out with the paths, right? Like I think they've done a very intelligent job of like mapping out where the ramps are and how they interact with the map, so it makes it feel bigger, and it makes attack paths like that much harder to, like it makes it more of an investment to like go for an attack on this map, which I quite like.
And again, there isn't like a ridiculous amount of attack paths, so if there's an army moving out and you have like a reasonable amount of vision, you're going to catch it.
Yeah, definitely.
So it does a really good job. Like Lost and Found.
Yeah, I think this will probably get a lot of play at WCS Valencia.
Yes.
Easily. So, last map in the map pool.
Oh, is it time?
It's time to talk about Redshift LE.
Redshift.
Right. I'm gonna throw this out there. I hate this map. I think this map is so dumb. I vetoed this map almost immediately after I saw it. So to go through the mechanics, there is 4 very easily takeable bases. The 5th and 6th are a bit out there, but it's more like a clockwise kind of expansion, or more counterclockwise expansion if you're going from the bottom base. There is this weird in-base gold that is near a watchtower, which is very droppable, and roaches can get there, and like every ranged unit in the game can kind of get there.
Yeah.
And it has this weird mechanic that you made me privy to yesterday, Exo, of when the gold base is mined out, you actually now have an attack route into the main base through the gold base, which is like the weirdest thing I've seen. I utterly despise this map. I don't know what else to say about it. I really don't. I've literally not played any games on this map.
I have. Do you know what? I have, because I had to check my replays for the replay I was showing you about this. I've actually played 43 games on this map.
Wow,
that is actually crazy, because that's how many. That's like my last one I did was map Redshift 43. So God knows how I've played that many games on it, because it's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know why everyone doesn't veto this map. I understand it at competition, like maybe you don't want to like veto
the same thing.
Yeah, the same thing, because then like people know that you're weak on that map, so they'll probably like try and get it in there.
You just hope your opponent veto. It's veto chicken. Like,
yeah,
nobody wants to play it.
No doubt.
You don't want to waste your veto.
Yeah, I think I've told you this in the past, Exo, but like I feel like everyone who plays a macro game on this map is kind of like they've kind of had like this gentleman's agreement before the match to say we won't take the gold base, trust us, because like the gold base is so easily takeable, but it's so easily abused. Like I was saying before, how it's like high risk, high reward. I feel like this is too high risk and too high reward, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. This is what I feel is tough here is that this is kind of a map that was that people really wanted to be creatively free with it. Like, yeah, let's put random gold mineral patches. Let's make it so that becomes an attack path. It's like, oh, but we need to make it standardized enough that it could legitimately be used without everyone freaking out.
Yeah.
So then you get this kind of half and half thing where it's like, it's kind of cool, but not.
So, if I was going to improve this map, right, I would take out the watchtower on the left here. Like, that high ground there would be taken out, and the destructible rock ramp to the gold would be replaced with a ramp from the base adjacent, so to the right or to the left of the gold base. There would be a ramp from there into the gold base, but it would still be on a weird high ground. I think that would, like, for me, it would improve the map, but it wouldn't make it a great map. It wouldn't make it a catalyst or an acid plant. It would just make it like one of those weird maps that I'd probably veto eventually and not instantly.
I love that. That's so honest. And I want to try something. Basically, what I would do for this map is, and I've just done it on paint here, just to get a visual representation of it, is that I would basically take it and I would flip like the bottom half of it. So it ends up being like a bottom left versus top right.
Yeah.
Half. And you still have this gold base where once you mine out, it becomes an attack path. But it's not like so ridiculously in your opponent's face that you get. This is another weird thing. I don't think we've ever had this in the map where like your main and your opponent's main are like a straight line. We've had what was that? I know the map I'm thinking of. There's been a few like what was the map where it had the island bases in between? God, what was that map called?
I don't know.
You started in the bottom left and the bottom right.
Right.
And then there was each had a floating base, an island base.
Yeah.
With like air blockers. But that didn't really work very well. It was a weird map. It was a good map.
I remember that. It was like a V map, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it, but it was like a really early map, and everyone hated it because like none of the. all of the expansions were like super difficult to take.
You didn't like it. Was it Newgrounds? Newgrounds. Hang on, I'm googling it. Oh, okay, no. Oh, wow, weird
Okay.
banner. Interesting.
So-
yeah, we're getting off topic.
Yeah, a little. Yeah, so Redshift unfortunately will get a lot of play at WCS Valencia because I've
Do you
seen.
think?
Pardon?
Do you think it'll get a lot of play?
I know a lot of Terran players that absolutely love this map. Special
Oh,
is
okay,
one
okay.
of them. Special loves this map. I don't know why. I'd love to hear his reasons. I'd absolutely love to talk to that guy and be like, why do you like this map? Like, it's absolutely disgusting. And maybe
Yeah.
that's why he likes it, but yeah. I'm
No,
not a fan.
fair.
Do you think it will get much play?
No.
No? Okay.
I think we'll see it in round of 16.
Oh, yeah.
But that's because we're going best of fives from their point. Well,
Yeah,
I'll be
yeah,
interested
no
to see if we
doubt.
see a lot of it in the thing.
Yeah,
There's
we'll
definitely-
see. I think like we'll see each map at least once, just because of how the WCS brackets work. But
Yeah.
it's just that most like Acid Plant, Catalyst, and Dreamcatcher will probably get the most play, and Lost and Found. Sorry.
Yeah, that's it. And you just summed up exactly what I wanted. I'll probably say Acid Plant, Catalyst, and Lost and Found are like the most standard three.
Yeah, definitely.
You kind of don't need a special strategy on there. There's some things to take advantage of, but you can pretty much just do your game plan.
Yeah.
And then the other maps are just a bit more quirky, and it's Veto Chicken and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So that's the map pool.
That is the map pool. Some really good maps. I really like what they're doing with maps recently, to be honest. They're making them a bit more standard than they used to be. You know, they're still throwing in those quirky maps that I'm not particularly a fan of, but I'm happy that I've got 3 vetoes, let's just put it that way, on ladder.
I kind of agree with you. I like mostly of what they're doing with it, but I feel like the hit rate is not been amazing. This thing, it was like Lost and Found, amazing. Redshift, awful.
Yes. Yeah,
I heard-
well, I think like
Go on.
this is true with like every season, is that there's like 3 or 4 maps that are absolutely brilliant and like 2 or 3 maps that are like awful. And like Blizzard have a really bad, like a good and bad reputation for maps where like they'll make certain maps like really good but other maps like really bad, and there's no like in between map. I don't think I've ever said like, yeah, this is like an okay map. It's either like a really good map or a really bad map.
Yeah, I think I kind of want to say 16-bit is in the middle, but I don't like when it first came out I was like that, but the more I play it, the less I like it. It's
Yeah, that's exactly
really
what I
unfortunate.
felt. Like I have this vetoed, but it was after a very long time. And I think it's just because like in TVP it is too easy to get like the 3 bases, and like even a 4th, like it's so easily defended by the Protoss, and going late game TVP is like a really difficult matchup. That
Mate,
you
gotta
only
go
Pardon?
you gotta go for that old styled Bunny fast. Bunny had this style where he went fast Liberator range on like a really old map. I think I'm surprised I haven't seen it more in all honesty, but it's like I think it's like just shy of 6 minutes, like Liberator range. It's
Wow.
like, yeah, it was like ridiculous. It's like a 1-1-1 straight Liberator range.
Oh wow, okay. I've not heard of
but
that build.
Yeah, man, I've had it against me like twice, and it killed me outright both times.
Oh wow, I'll have to try it.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find those replays.
Cool. So yeah, the next thing we're going to do is kind of talk about who we're excited to see play. So we've kind of got the player list in front of us here. Do you want to take me through some of your Protoss picks, I guess?
Yeah. So I have to say, right, and I don't want to be too negative here, but I have to say that I feel like the Protoss representation has not been super.
Right.
Like, I feel like the and not in numbers either, even though we are the lowest represented race again. But not even in numbers. Like, I mean, I just don't know who. Like,
Whoa there. There's 22 Protosses and 18 Terrans. What are you saying?
God damn, I shouldn't have put that in the notes. Yeah, this is true. This is true.
Yeah,
It's
but
a
go
tough
ahead.
show. Way zoomed in there. Yeah, I don't have a Protoss champion. Is the unfortunate thing. Like, we've got Neeb in there. We've got Haas.
Not on the
Um,
mana train?
no, I'm not on the Mando. I'm on the Harstem train, right? Harstem is like the
Okay.
Protoss I am most interested in. I think he's had a great showing at Home Story Cup and Nation Wars before that. He's been like he's been more consistently solid in tournaments, and I think like each of his matchups, is like super interesting. His PvT is probably his weakest from what I've seen. But again, like there's a few key Terrans I definitely think could take him out. But
Yeah, yeah.
aside from that, like I can legit see him going up against like 99% of the Zergs and having a very good time
Yeah,
with
yeah.
really Cyril being the one.
I think, yeah, there's quite a diversity of like skill levels in the Protoss. Like Mana, as we know, like had a really good showing last tournament, but we don't know if
Yeah.
that's going to be consistent with this tournament because, like, he was like kind of petering off before then, and he made like this really like awesome showing last time. So I'm really excited to see like if he does the same here. Yeah, Neeb, kind of kind of disappointed
He's
with
not
like
had
his
it.
showing
He's not
this
showed
year.
up this year. He really
Yeah,
hasn't.
he really hasn't. Last year he was killing it, like absolutely killing it. But like this year, I feel like he's
Not
just
so
not
much.
there.
And I feel like that's unfortunate in the story with a lot of the good Protosses because Showtime. I haven't seen a lot of Showtime this year. I have heard Valencia is on as we're recording this, and I've heard that his games have looked good today, which is good to hear. But I just haven't like seen a big thing out of him.
Yeah,
Petit Drogo has like these spurts of being like amazing in like a matchup, and then like kind of fades out again. Mana had his good run. Harston, like I say, is pretty damn good and consistent. DNS is another interesting player. I just don't see a lot of him, so I don't really know. So yeah, it's like in terms of like super outstanding star. If you had to say, hey Exo, which Protoss is going to win this tournament? And I'm like, well, Neep hasn't really shown up. I'm like, I don't know who can actually win it. I'm losing. I don't want to have not confidence in my Protoss brethren. But, like, I just don't know who to back in this.
yeah,
situation.
yeah. It's a really difficult one, isn't it? Especially from a Protoss point of view, I think.
Yeah.
Like kind of moving on to the Terrans with me,
Yes,
I
go.
guess. So of course, like I've got to back my man Special. Like of course,
course.
like yeah, I think like he is the best foreign Terran, and no one would argue with me there, right?
No, I probably wouldn't, to be fair.
No.
I did really like Kelazur like had that like amazing burst, but he just like hasn't quite held it up. But I
Yeah.
really think he's a good player. I enjoy watching Kelazur, like just from a raw mechanics, like he like wants to play that straight up honest game, and I appreciate that. Same with Special. Though Special has more tricks up his sleeve as well.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I think that's what I like about Special though, is that he's got like quite a lot in his arsenal.
Absolutely.
Other Terran players I'm quite excited to see is, of course, like Hero Marine.
Yeah.
Is always a favorite of mine, and Euthermal is back playing Terran after his showing of Protoss in the last
Wait,
tournament.
Is Hero Marine not in this tournament?
No, he is.
I don't-
He's a notable open
Oh, okay.
sign-up player.
Okay, he's not showing up for me. Well, but yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah, he's a solid player.
Yeah, very solid.
Wait, was he the one that did the Nation Wars 3, like Korean all kill? Was that Hero Marine?
Quite possibly.
Like I remember there was that foreign Terran who just like went 5-0 like versus the Koreans in
Oh,
in the
really?
thing. Yeah. Hang on, I'm gonna quickly Google it. Nation War. Okay, I don't think it was that one. Okay, I can't.
Okay. No
But
worries.
either way, yeah. Hero Marines, another very good.
Yeah,
player.
I'm excited to see like how deep in this tournament he can get. Looking at the other ones, like the Muslim, quite excited to, repping my UK brethren.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, he's got into group stage 3,
Yes.
minus spoilers for the thing. So he is actually doing reasonably well this tournament.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited.
So
the Muslim
I'd
is
love to
getting
see
in
some
there.
more of his play.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think he's a really good Terran player. It's just unfortunate that he hasn't had as much luck as other Terran players, I guess.
Yeah.
Kind of glancing down the other Terrans, yeah, I don't really I either don't recognize them or haven't seen many of their games.
Yeah.
Massa, I kind of know. Kelazor, I know. XY is kind of new to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I was going to do what you did and point one person out to kind of win this, my money would be on special for the Terrans, of course. Of course.
Don't blame him, man. I don't blame him.
Yeah, because he's had such a strong WCS run up to this point. There's no reason to doubt him here. I think if he doesn't come up against Cyril, who we'll talk about in a minute, but if he doesn't come up against Cyril early, I think he'll get pretty deep. I'd say quarters or semis.
Yeah. So in order to if I should have thought about this beforehand, but now I'm thinking about it, so I'm going to say it. In kind of my dream round of 8 scenario, it would be Kelazur and Special, but they would be on opposite sides of the bracket. There would be at least those 2 Terran players in the round of 8.
Yeah.
On opposite sides of the bracket, because then you're guaranteed some good TVX matchups.
Yeah.
Regardless of who they're playing, or how however good their opponents are, I feel like they have a realistic shot. As well as they're always going to be showing good technical games and good strategies. So would love to see both Kelazur and Special.
Yeah, definitely. So moving on to the Zergs, and I guess we can do this together because we don't have You're a Protoss, I'm a Terran. Let's talk about the Zergs together.
Yeah. One honourable mention for Terran, and I don't know how well he's doing, Clem.
Okay.
I really want to see Clem do well. I've been following him a little bit. And I really like him I don't know, I just want to root for he's kind of like that underdog because he's so young.
Yeah,
I really like him as an up and coming player. And I don't know how well he's doing. I haven't seen any of his games yet, but hope he does well. So yeah, another Terran player.
Go Clem. We believe in you. Good segue. He is on the same team as our boy Reyna.
Ah, yes.
So there's been a lot of hype around Reyna recently, right?
You could say he's a classic in the making.
Yeah, so obviously he's been pegged as one of the favorites for this tournament, I guess.
Yeah.
Kind of looking down the list here, there is quite a few good Zerg players here, and it makes me pretty scared. I mean, there's Namshar, Scarlet, Cyril, of course, Snoop, True, Bly, a Laser who won it last year, Lambo, Nurtio, Reyna, Rhett, Stefano, TLO, Zanster.
Okay. So, to talk about some of these, I was really interested in both Lambo and Stefano. After their home story cup and a few of their other previous tournaments, these 2 players have been they've both been really solid players. I'm I've been watching the last few tournaments. I'm damn, each time it's been why am I not rooting for these more often?
No,
I feel
they're
consistent. And spoiler alert, they're both out already. Lambo and Stefano are already gone. I'm wow. Damn, wrong time to jump on that bandwagon.
Yeah, no doubt. Stefano, oh man, do you remember in Heart of the Swarm when Stefano was the guy to watch? Man. Yeah, the Roach Man, the 200 supply roaches. Oh man. Yeah, I'm really happy that Rhett is making a comeback. I think I was watching the 20-year anniversary stream, I believe it was, when Rhett was playing, and he was talking about his comeback and things, and how he's improved over the old Rhett. So I'm actually really excited to see his games if he's not been knocked out yet.
I gotta say, Rhett to me, oh man, I don't know how offensive I should go on these sort of on the first show and all that. but I feel like Rhett was like one of the patch Zerg. He was like a patch Zerg. I'm not saying he was bad, because obviously, he was pro.
Better than you.
Yeah, better than me. But I always felt like, because he was like one of these really heavy drone, fast hive.
Yeah.
Zergs. And I really felt like it was just like, not super meta heavy, but it was like just not. I don't know. I was never his biggest fan.
Yeah.
And again, Scarlet, much more interested in. Nurture, I'd love to see Nurture make a comeback. Nurture was a super strong player almost 2 years ago now. Damn, a year and a half ago when he was in BlizzCon.
Yeah.
He had this amazing series versus TY, pushed TY to the limit, and then barely lost. And then fucking a laser took his place the following year, and like a laser stole it from him in a ZVZ.
Okay.
A laser's like a fucking ZVZ sniper.
Yep.
I can't play any other matchup.
Oh.
I can't play other matchups, but I like the aggressive one in this.
If you haven't guessed, Exo here is not a big fan of a laser.
It's like he's good, but I just feel like I feel like he's not as good as Nurture was in his prime, but Nurture was kind of fallen off a bit, and it makes me sad. Cause I feel like Nurture put in all the hard work and the years of effort to like get notable, and then a laser like swooped in and took it.
This is how I feel about Special. Last year it was Neve, this year it was Cyril.
And yeah, both years Special has been amazing.
I know, Special's been so consistent, but there's been one player that like outdone him by like just the smallest of margins, and it makes me hurt. It makes my Terran heart weep.
Has Special won a WCS main event?
Yes, I believe he did
good.
last year. Yes, because he did make it to BlizzCon, right? I think he made it to like the semis of.
Yeah.
Or like the quarters. But yeah, I guess while we're talking about the Zergs, we should talk about the favourite, right? The guy who's won
Cyril.
2 BlizzCons this year. Let's talk about Cyril.
Let's talk about Cyril. What do you think he's gonna take it?
I don't think he'll take this one. If I'm going to be very honest, I don't think he'll take this one.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah, he has obviously been very strong. He is the only person with like an amazing amount of MMR. I don't know his current MMR, but it's probably like 8,000 or something right now. Yeah, of course, like he is the favorite here because he's won 2 previous WCSs. And I've been watching some of his games today, man, and he looks untouchable. He really does.
That's the scary thing about Cyril, man, is that he looks untouchable throughout, and it's absolutely crazy.
I was really surprised that Mana was able to get a couple of maps away from him.
And no offense to Mana in this, but it was like Cyril was preparing, was playing so respectfully. He was like, right, I'm gonna make 8 to 15 Broodlords, and he's gonna start making like Tempest and carriers. So I'm gonna go for Viper. Wait, why is there like 15 Blinkstalkers? It was like, I feel so sorry for him. Like, don't get me wrong, I think Mana played the game how he should have played it, but I feel like Cyril was expecting a different type of game.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, I've just glanced over, and Cyril went 2-0 in his group.
I saw, yeah, I watched those matches. As I say, he looks untouchable, and of course, like he's going to go deep. I think he'll at least get to the finals, right? He has to.
Well, okay, so really, putting him straight into the round of 8, do you have any matchups that you either want to see him in, or that you think are actually threatening to him? Like, say, Special was definitely one. But
no, I don't. This is the thing. Like, I don't think he will win, but I don't know who can take him down at this point. I'd love to see Special take him on. To be honest with you, I'd love that. That is we're going to talk about this in a minute, but this is the one matchup that I would love to see because I'd love to see the outcome of it.
Yeah.
But I think if Special does take down Cyril, I'll think he'd probably lose to a Mana.
yes. So this is actually exactly what happened last Valencia. last Valencia, it was Neeb versus Special in the quarterfinals, and Special beat Neeb, dethroning him from the
Yeah.
potential third run streak, and then lost in the semi-finals to like not a laser, it was Snoo. It was like a
Yeah, I
really
think it
weird,
was.
like, lost to Snoop, and then a laser destroyed Snoop in the finals.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just like, why? Special, it was your time.
Yeah, this
And
is.
Special could have taken a laser as well. I fully believe
Oh,
that he
no
could have
doubt,
taken a
no
laser.
doubt.
But
Yeah.
again, a laser only wins a fucking ZVZ. Snoop, you ruined it. Oh,
Oh,
you can't blame
brilliant.
Snoop, I suppose.
Brilliant.
But so if we see that again, if we see Special take out Cyril and then lose the next thing, and then it's like a Protoss winner, I will laugh so hard.
Oh
That's what I want to
man,
have.
I won't. It will
Uh,
pain me. Um. s-
hey,
So yeah, talking about it, I guess. What would one matchup for you like? What is your dream matchup here?
oh man, I don't know. Like, I definitely want to see Special and Kelzer play against like Scarlet, Nurtio, and Cyril. Like the TVZs there would be great.
Yeah.
And then aside from that, it's really just like Harston is my man for P versus anything at the minute. I'd like to see some PvP. PvP has been a really interesting matchup, and I haven't seen
Don't
a lot
see
of
a lot of
professional
it these
PvP.
days, really.
No, might be why the meta has taken a while to settle on the ladder, but we'll talk more about that in a bit. But
Yeah, yeah.
I'd like to see if we can get like Mana and Showtime, like I say, is doing pretty good. Like Mana, Showtime, Hearthstone. If any of those can get into the round of eight, that'll be nice. And then I think they have a good chance of like either doing an upset or like actually taking it. And of course Neeb, I shouldn't count out Neeb, but I really
Yeah.
hope like he switches it on.
I think yeah, if Neeb switches on, like I think he's got a good chance
But
here. It's just like I haven't seen that yet from him this year, so I'm a
yeah,
bit skeptical, but
do you remember?
hope is still there.
Do you remember Hydra? Hydra and Pole? Do you remember that kind of?
No.
There was a tournament. Do you remember the player Hydra? He was like really big for like 2 or 3 tournaments.
I
And he like
remember the
died
name,
out.
yeah.
So he had this thing where, and I'd love Neeb to do this, where Paul, like Captain America himself, had was like he wasn't looking strong, but he was winning, right? He like had gone. Each of his series had gone to like the final map each time, but he like always persevered through and just managed to win. Right? And he was on one side of the bracket from like the round of 16 or whatever. And Hydra was on the other side of the bracket, and he had the exact opposite. He was demolishing everyone. There were like no excess games. He didn't drop a map from the round of 16s to the final, and then Pulp beats him like 4-2 in the grand final. And and it's just like I'd love Neeb to come in and do that,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
anyone really, like not look so amazing, but then get to the final against like a flawless Cyril and just like take them out.
Oh yeah, that would
I
be
love that
great. It
storyline.
would be great.
But yeah, I'm super interested to see. There's like I feel like Cyril, Scarlet, Nurtio, Special Kelazur, Need, Hearthstone, round of 8.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I said 8 players. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I'm
said-
I'm super excited to see if Kelazor gets through to the round of 8, which I'm pretty sure he
Yeah.
will. Like Kelazor versus any Zerg or any Protoss, Special versus any Zerg or any Protoss. I think like the one matchup I'm not like super excited to see is a TVT, which because like that means one of my Terran brethren are going out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
There's
can't
already
remember the
so few
last
of you.
time. Yeah, yeah. I can't remember the last time that there was a TVT finals.
Yeah. Yeah.
That must have been a good few years ago. But we always get ZPZ finals, right?
Yeah. Well,
Exo?
yes, Joro. So hang on, I wrote this down earlier. Let me just go check it. What is it? We are currently at 22 Protosses entered, 18 Terrans entered, and 36 Zergs.
Yeah, yeah.
Like almost as many Zergs as there are Terrans and Protoss combined.
Well, yeah, this is
Not-
kind of the thing, isn't there? There's
Yeah.
a lot of like foreign talent, I guess, in Zerg, whereas there's not as much foreign talent with Protoss or Terran. Like Terran, I think is the least represented race outside of Korea, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not like entirely sure why that is, but
Yeah, I feel like Zerg is oddly overrepresented in Europe as well.
oh,
That's another
definitely,
common
yeah.
trend. Again, I'm not sure why. I think the Zerg is like, man, I don't know if I'd want to say it's like the strongest or like the most versatile race. Um, I don't know if that's the case. StarCraft is very well balanced nowadays, but
Yeah, yeah.
there's something about the Zerg magic that sort of like mixes up the most players enough that
Yeah, yeah.
it
I get what
works.
you mean. It's yeah. As I say, there seems to be a lot more talent for Zerg outside of Korea, whereas like in Korea, there's much more talent for like Terran and Protoss, like
Yeah, yeah.
innovation, for example.
Yeah, I like, and again, what's most interesting about the inside of Korea, it's a nice little tangent we're going on, but is that the players in Korea like have a very varied style. Like you have players like SOS and Classic, and they're very different to like how they play. Like SOS being like one of those crazy Protosses, and then you have Zergs where you have like Dark and Rogue and Sue, and again they're all very distinct. And then Innovation, not so much distinct as he is just very straight up good. And then TY, I'd say TY is a very technical player. He has got so many things. I think he like really like high SCV count, like just like real pumping out units, kind of like Innovation as well, I suppose.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, like really, like I feel like the players in Korea are like really distinct, and I wouldn't say that Zergs aren't distinct in Europe, but it's like it feels like a different level. Like the very
Yeah,
top
yeah.
players in Korea are all very distinct.
Yeah, yeah,
I
I know
hadn't
what
thought
you
about
mean.
that before.
I guess
That's an
like
interesting
if I
thought.
was going to counter that point a little bit, like
Go
I
on.
could probably tell the difference between like a Scala game and a Stefano game, let's say. But
Okay, yeah, yeah, that's a fair point. That's definitely a fair point. Ah man, so final predictions. Do you have anything else to say about Valencia or
final predictions? I mean, I'm just excited to see like this many Terrans in Valencia, to be honest.
yeah,
There seems to be quite a good showing. Like, I'm especially glad that Thermal has come back as a Terran player. Like, I think last time it was like kind of fun to see him as a Protoss player, but I believe like
oh yeah,
every single match he just cannon
can
rushed with batteries, right? So
amazing. I loved it.
yeah, I don't think like that was as strong as his Terran. Like his Terran is
Yeah,
very
his
very
Terran's
good.
legitimately good.
Yeah, yeah. Where his Protoss just seemed a bit cheesy for my liking. So I'm quite excited that he's back playing Terran.
Also, just to point out, this is going to be a minor spoiler for Valencia, but I believe in groups at the minute, Haas has gone through in first in his group. He's 2-0, and his group also has Special and a Laser in, and
Interesting.
they're both 1-1. So they are now having a best of three, I think. It's not on the stream at
Yeah,
the minute,
yeah.
but one of those is going out now.
Oh
So,
no, not
but
special.
no, right. Hey, no, it's a laser. He can't play. It's not as easy. Special will win. I'm calling it.
Yeah,
And
I hope
special
I
goes to
hope
round
so.
of eight. I hope.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, it's
So
quite
yeah,
interesting. Group stages are always really difficult, I guess, because like they're played so quickly that you can't really prepare enough for like your specific opponent because like of
yeah,
course like at this level you don't like practice like a TVP, let's say. You practice like
yeah.
I'm
A
going
PC
against
need.
Scarlet. I need to practice against Scarlet. I need to
Yeah,
watch a lot of Scarlet games and like
and I
know how they play.
and I think special is very good at that. That's why I think
Yes.
special at the higher levels is always a scary opponent. But
Yeah,
then occasionally gets knocked
this is
out.
why I think he does so well, like gets so deep
Mm,
in tournaments, is that he's very good at understanding his opponent's play
yeah,
style and knowing how to counter it very, very well.
yeah. It's a big thing for him, and that's why when he got taken out by Snoot last year, it was kind of like a painful head-in-hand moment because I think he legitimately could have taken out a laser
Yeah,
and
yeah,
won the tournament,
no doubt.
and it's for that exact reason. So yeah, really good stuff.
And this is why Exo hates a laser.
Yeah, a laser just ruins. He steals from everyone.
Cool. Right. Okay. So, yeah, that kind of caps off Valencia quite nicely, I think.
Okay.
That's kind of like our thoughts, our predictions. So, let's go on to a new section. Seeing as this is a new show, let's introduce a new section, eh? I like to call this section This Week on Ladder, where we can talk about anything that gives us trouble, anything that annoyed us, maybe share a couple of replays between ourselves, and maybe we'll link them as links to the podcast or talk show. You know, anything that we want to talk about that's kind of happened to us on Ladder this week. So I'm going to allow my good friend Exo here to kind of take the first point.
You want me to take the first bit?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I've had quite an interesting week on Ladder.
I've heard.
I had a bit of a rage session, which was unfortunate, but you have to do that. So what I want to talk about is PVZ. I main Protoss, in case I wasn't aware already. I main Protoss, and PVZ has been a really interesting and awkward matchup recently. What we seem to be getting a lot of, for a very long time, the standard has been 17 hatch, and then like gas pool kind of follow up for that like 325 speed timing. I don't know. That's very standard, and that has, you know, pretty much all of PVZ is based around that. That's why the Stargate works as it does, and you know why that's so important. So what's been happening recently is that we've seen a lot of what I like to call off-time pools. Now these pools are like go down anywhere from like the 1 minute mark to like the 140 minute mark, which generally are like it's earlier than your normal pool timing, but like not so early that it's a committed cheese. And if you don't respect it, you like lose immediately. You have a very scary possibility of like losing instantly. So I've been trying to figure out that with mixed results. And again, it's really just about like you have to, because I scout after pylon. I scout after pylon, and so I pretty much always see it, and then I react. So I build on the low ground. And you just wall off as soon as possible. It's really difficult, and I just don't know what to do. Again, it's like Zerg seem to have such freedom in these sort of things, and this is wine at this point. This is like I'm stepping on the berries and I'm creating wine here because it feels like Zerg has all the options, and as Protoss, you have to it's hard to identify and respect it to the level to get away with it without then like losing.
Yeah. So
that's been my.
So what have you been trying out of interest?
So my main thing is I have a build for off-time pools where I go for a fast 2-gate. I basically massively delay my natural, but I build the wall in, and then I build zealots and adepts and go for like this really weird timing. And basically I try and make it into a weird game so that Zerg doesn't know what's happening, and I kind of have at least a plan. I go into DTs after that.
Yeah.
And it's a really solid build. I don't want to have to do it every game because I feel like if you know it, like if I played the same person a few times, I feel like it becomes very weak. But it's like a nice offhand answer to have. So, but I'm really trying to like, how do I get back to that standard game? So I can get that Stargate out, so I can be safe against things and then take a third. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah,
do you have any suggestions?
I mean, not off the top of my head. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because like, of course, like the PVC matchup has kind of been kind of standard for a while now with like the Stargate opening, and you know, and seeing as Zerg is going for like more early aggression, I'd say. And like having, it's really weird when you have to have this thing in your build where if you scout like a certain thing, you're like, okay, now I have to like alter my regular build to deal with like what's going to happen. Like,
Yeah, well, I had one earlier, and I was playing before we recorded this, and I was really happy to have it in this way because I scouted an off-time pool, and I was like, all right, I'm not going to react. I'm just going to play normal and see how it works. And he got lings into my base before the wall was complete, which I kind of expected, but it was only 4 to 6 lings. So I had to chase those around a bit. And then he followed with a big roach timing, so I don't know if that was his plan all along, or if he got in and scouted that my like Stargate was super late and that I was like chasing his lings around and then decided to do it. But he ended up winning because I like scouted the roaches too late and I couldn't get enough units out.
yeah,
But it was a really good. It was kind of a loss that I was very willing to take just to see like in a real game scenario.
Yeah. No
Yeah,
doubt.
in a real game scenario, if I go for my normal like 2 adepts, sort of thing of that, can I get them out in time? And generally, no. You have to make and what's frustrating about it, and this is what I've had in the other games where I've tried going standard. If you build the second gate early, right? You build the second gate early in your wall. Maybe I should build the Stargate in the wall if this happens. Damn, I haven't just thought of that. Because if you build the second gateway in your wall in time, you delay your Stargate. And if you don't delay your Stargate, you have to cut probes.
Yeah.
And if you cut probes, by the time you like actually are trying to build an oracle, you're like 4 probes down. And that's like for nothing. For like, and obviously the Zergs are drone down because he built the pool earlier, so he's probably like a little bit down. But I feel like just like in order to play safe in that situation, but try and keep to a normal build, you lose all your tight timings. Like I have a tight timing with 3 gates and 2 oracles, and I just lose that timing completely if I play like safe out of it. So it's a really painful.
Yeah, like super early aggression like that is super hard to deal with because like early game, like every race has like super tight builds, and like I found like as you progress further and further into the game, like they come a bit less tight, but like early game you really need to be nailing like, you know, the pylons, you really need to be nailing the gateways because like you're trying to get to a point in time where you have like a standard set of buildings, and that's why early aggression is like does so well, is because it kind of throws you off.
Yeah. So Joro, have you had any problems with early aggression?
That's a good segue. Let me tell you. I've kind of noticed. So I main Terran, if you didn't know by now. And I've been noticing like more and more that Protosses have been pushing for early aggression, and it's quite an interesting one for me because like normally I see early aggression in the form of like adepts or something, and that's kind of standard. I can deal with that, but like these days I see it more like Protosses kind of pushing like multiple stalkers to my base. So like really early game pushing like 3-4 stalkers, and like if you don't have a bunker down, they can really abuse that. They keep on building stalkers, and they pick off like one marine until you don't have enough marines to kind of wade off the stalkers. And like I've been in games recently where like this has happened until I've got like a third base, and I'm like SCV in the third base, and I'm like so down on marines because like he's like the aggression is so good that he's kind of kept me on a back foot until like super late into the game, and I've just like lost like straight up. So like I'm more inclined these days to like build a bunker at my natural, which hasn't been standard in quite a long time versus Protoss. So it's quite interesting how that like kind of petered off of the meta because like Protosses haven't been as aggressive.
I think part of it as well for that is that the way the adept works, because the adept is so standard to go either as your first or second unit, is that it used to be that if you built a bunker, it was really hard for a stalker to run past the bunker to then see anything behind it.
Yes.
But the adept will always be able to shade and see something. So I think that was part of the reason why it become less standard.
Yeah,
That and again, aggression in general. But it's weird because 3 adept openings used to be really strong.
Oh yeah,
Like
definitely.
I'm definitely thinking them going back to like a 3 adept opening, like going one shot Marines. I don't know how that would work in Italians, so I don't know. I have to think about that.
Yeah, Adepts used to be super strong. I mean, I don't know how many times I complained about you about the Adept. Like, when Legacy first came out, if you remember, like, the
Yeah.
Adept was super strong versus Terran. I remember, like, playing game after game where it was just, like, Adept all in, Adept all in, Adept all in. And, like, at the end of it, like, I think I, like, walled everything. Like, I walled my natural, I walled my third, like, put bunkers everywhere, and, like, and these are, like, the type of things that you need to do to, like, counter
Yeah.
these sorts of things on ladder. Like, if you're facing a lot of adept all-ins, then you have to, like, be like, okay, I'm going to wall in from now on. And that's just, like,
Yeah.
the risk that you have to take. If someone does, like, a blink stalker all-in, then, like, you know, but it kind of like the reason why I picked this up is like this week it kind of came to a head where like this Protoss player kind of went like early 2 gate and Chrono boosted out a Zealot like, and so we went Zealot Zealot Stalker Stalker Stalker, and so the reason why you chrono out that first Stalker is to stop the bunker from building,
Yeah.
and as soon as that bunker isn't built, the Terran, like, unless the Terran player is going for like cyclones or tanks, like it is super super difficult for the Terran player to like get back into the game. So I kind of just like GG'd and like went on to my next game.
It's tough one, man. Like, just out of curiosity with that, what opening do you do as Terran? Do you go for the reacted factory or
So
what's your?
yeah, it's interesting because like recently I've decided to switch my openings up a bit. So
Okay.
I quite like to go 2-1-1, and for anyone who doesn't know what that is,
Yeah.
it's kind of like 2 racks, 1 factory, 1 starport. So what I used to do is kind of go for 1 racks reactor, then factory, and then as soon as I could afford a starport, I threw a starport and a barracks down, so I would have the 2-1-1, and then I'd expand. But
Yeah.
what I found was that with that build is that stim and combat shield were super late.
So late.
Yeah, and you couldn't like put on much aggression. So now I'm more inclined to like go barracks, factory, starport.
Okay.
So I can get the stim earlier and be aggressive earlier.
Yeah, I see. That's interesting. I was just wondering if it was like I need to try this. So I already go for a Blinkstalker opening as it is. And I can definitely add in the because the way I do it is I take about a 4 minute third if I can get away with it. And I have 4 stalkers at that point and blinkers finishing up at around a little past 4 minutes. So I can definitely push out with that. The only thing I'd be scared of is like, well, Hellions would already have come at that point, so you're generally all right there. And drop play, you would scout with an adept beforehand. So I actually think it's a really strong timing. And it's kind of one of these things that now you've mentioned it, I'm like, why haven't I been doing this at all? Like, I think the only reason is that you're likely to have your macro slip and then not actually build your gates and your things. But like, that's just me being bad. But I'm definitely going to try it because, yeah, it sounds really good. And I will try that one base play as well. I love my one base. Basically what me and Joro do is Joro will explain something that's happened to him. And I'll be like, that doesn't sound like it works. And then I'll go and do it. I'm like, oh my God, it works.
Oh, do you wanna like give an example recently of that?
Okay, so Joro had a game where he lost against a mothership rush.
Oh, this was beautiful.
And was it on Cat?
Yeah, I think it was on Catalyst.
Yeah, so again, it was a really weird sort of thing. And did you scout it? Or
Yeah,
not? I
I
can't
scouted
remember.
it because it actually like this was the second time it actually happened to me on ladder. The first time was actually on Dreamcatcher, but this
Oh
one
yeah.
like I knew it was coming, so I was like, okay, I have a Diamond Protoss friend. Let's see what he thinks of this build. Oh my god, the laughing from the other end of this microphone was just unbearable. But then like EXO kind of like was like, I'm gonna try this. And like it works surprisingly well from what I hear.
Yeah. So the way it works is, so I've recently vetoed Redshift because I'm finally done with that map. But basically, that was I was mothershipping rushing, every race on that map, and I've been successful versus, at least one of every race. Least successful versus Zerg, most successful versus Terran. I actually don't. I think I've only dropped one map with the mothership rush on that map against Terran. That's how good it is.
Yeah, it's unbelievable on these like short maps, where
Mm.
you go one base mothership and just recall into a base. Because I think what gets me about it is that even if you scout it, like I remember the first time I faced it, like I scanned and like because okay, the person built a fleet beacon in the middle of the map, right? So when I scanned his base, the only thing I saw were like two gateways and a couple of units. I was like, what in the name of God is going on here? And like,
Yeah.
when the mothership actually come in, I was just like, I'm stupid. Like,
Yeah.
because
I,
this actually like this was like the third time that like a mass recall killed me. Because do you remember the first time a mass recall
oh,
killed me? Because I
the
do.
proxy nexus.
The proxy nexus. This proxy nexus.
Oh,
So a probe came into my base, was like scouting around for ages, and then he drops a nexus right by my base. And to be honest, when this nexus was like building, I didn't have a single clue what this
what?
Protoss, like not an iota of like a clue of what this Protoss was planning to do. And then as soon as the mass recall came down, and
Yeah.
like the probes and like the three zealots I think it was came into my base, I felt so dumb.
Oh man, that one, I think you got gamed on that one a little bit because I tried that one on one of my other Terran friends without telling him what it was going to be, and he was like, "Nah, this was in the Pig Daily like 2 days ago." So I think you got caught at a crux when like Pig revealed it as a
Right.
build, but you didn't see the thing about
Yeah,
it
yeah.
because my other Terran friend, he like knew immediately as soon as I dropped the Nexus. He was like, "You're gonna recall everything." And I'm like, "God damn it!" But when I was watching both the Mothership Rush and the next Proxy Nexus, I was like, I had no idea what was going on until things happened. Like when I saw your the Mothership one, I was like, wait, is he going one base Tempest or something? That's what I
Yeah,
thought it
no.
was.
That's the thing is like when that fleet beacon comes down, it's like my thought initially goes to like one base carriers because that was like an actual build at one point. You like go one base carriers, get like three, four carriers, and then expand, and there's like nothing you can really do against it.
Just mass expand and then 200, 200
Yeah, yeah, because
slam into.
yeah, like if you get enough carriers, like you have to have like a good number of marines until you can defeat them. So
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one. Like I say I like the Mothership one, and man, I might consider doing it on Catalyst in a fun series. But
I'm sorry for anyone out there who has to face this.
I had the dirtiest one versus Zerg. I mean, Jor, I've already shown you this replay, but I want to go over it again. So this is Zerg. I'm playing against, and it's very standard. It's Redshift again, and because of that gold base in the thing, what ends up happening is I get a Stargate before anything else. I like rush Stargate, and he's scouting my natural with an Overlord, and I go in there with a Stalker, and I make a Phoenix out of the Stargate as well. So I show that, and I shoot the Overlord away, and and he's got an overlord looking over the gold base. So I put I put a nexus down there, not even a proxy nexus. I put a nexus down there, and then start shooing away the overlord with a phoenix. And as soon as it's out of range, I cancel the nexus, build 3 more gates. So it's a 4-gate, which is what you do with the mothership rush. So it's a mothership rush 4-gate. And then about 30 seconds before the mothership was flying into his main and recalling, he builds 3 roaches to go and attack the gold, like from the other side of the mineral patch, because 3 roaches one-shot a probe. And that's what his plan was. He was like, I'm going to harass the gold base of this Protoss opponent who still hasn't expanded into his normal natural. I'm so clever. And then bam, mothership into his base. The guy lost it. It was so satisfying.
It was not satisfying to watch.
Don't lie, Joro. You want to switch to Protoss and try it?
I kind of want to give it a go. I want to like switch to Protoss and like just consistently mothership rush and just see how far up the ladder I can go.
I honestly think versus Terranor Protoss, I don't think you can do it versus Zerg. Mothership rushing on 16-bit would be surprisingly effective. Because even though it's such a big map, because the natural is like hidden away, like it's really hard for like a Terran to scout whether the natural has been taken or not. You just like assume it has been, because when you scan, you're going to scan the main to see the tech. You're not going to scan the natural where there's barely any room for tech. And by like 5.5 minutes, when like a drop is coming in, that's like the mothership is like out and going across the map, and he's got like 4-gate, like 3-round warp-ins of 4-gate, like already sitting there. You defend the drop, and then it mass recalls into the main. I think it can work.
Oh no!
Man, I might try it on 16-bit. I haven't videoed that yet, so.
Okay, cool. Now that I have whined about early aggression, so I think like the answer to like this early aggression, and I've seen a Maru build that is kind of, I think, like an answer to this, which is like early factory and go tanks, and then like get 3 tanks out, go push, and then get into your regular bio play, I guess. And I might play around with it. I don't know. I'm not like a massive fan of tanks in TVP.
Neither am I, but I do think early game tanks is the way to go.
Okay.
Because I hadn't thought about it until you said it like that. I think the only problem with that is that if he doesn't go for the early aggression,
well, this
what are you going to do with those tanks? That's kind of
because like I've been like interestingly like with TVP. I've been seeing one of 2 things. So the early aggression is one thing, and the Zealot Archon is another thing. And I think like so I think like this is like, so I think the early aggression is like because Protossers haven't been aggressive for a while and they want to try it out again. But I think like the Zealot Archon is actually an answer to the early tanks, like thinking about it, because like, what's good against tanks? Well, it's zealots.
Okay, so the only thing I would say about that is if I suppose with 3 tanks they wouldn't all be on the high ground, but I feel like at least 2 of the tanks are going to be on the high ground that like overguard the natural. Then if you want to defend a bunker, I don't know, maybe not.
Yeah,
that's okay. No, I can see it being quite tough.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
I'm trying to think how you'd scout for that as well. Like maybe through aggression, maybe through like Hellion Harass or a 2-1-1 drop, and you see like there's no stalkers and a Templar Archive like already done.
Yeah,
but
it's just a bit of an interesting one, right?
Yeah, I think a 3-base Zealot Archon timing could be really scary actually. Because,
oh yeah, definitely.
Because the 3rd base can be taken so fast, and you can skip gases on probably the natural as well. You could do it like Haas style, where you only get the main 2 gases and you don't get gas on the natural or the 3rd. He does that style, and then he like just builds zealots.
Scary.
Yeah. And that could be a thing. I think since the Marauder buff, they do genuinely do quite a bit better versus zealots. So
yeah. Well,
But
zealots,
I think it could be
I
strong.
know, I may have complained about this in the past, but zealots have become really fantastic in PvT.
Definitely, definitely. They're a real yeah. I feel like you have to have like a critical mass. I want to say, but like one or two isn't that useful. But like as soon as you have a handful, like they will get in there.
Oh yeah,
You're gonna get
definitely.
charged every game.
Well, interestingly, I've seen Terrans going Widow Mines these days, as an answer to
Ah, yeah.
the mass zealot play that is going
I've seen a
on.
bit of that.
Yeah, which is quite interesting. I might try that style out a bit because I'm not a fan of the Widow Mine after the legacy change, which is as soon as it fires you can see it. I think it
Yeah.
took away all of its potential, but we might talk about that on a different show.
Yeah, that's definitely something worth.
Yeah, worth
mentioning.
discussing. I was really surprised that made it through the August change, but
Yeah, I don't know. Like the Widowmine, I feel was like a really awkward unit in that regard.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I again, I didn't think that change would go through, but it did, and
yeah,
here's the thing: I'm not disappointed about it because it really bottlenecked Protoss in an awkward way.
yeah, of course.
And it was one of those where it was like any kind of any build where the Terran got a starport early, they had the potential to also throw in a Widow Mine there. And if you didn't have early detection, it was super awkward. But then I feel like it's the unit is lost without it. I don't know. It's a really tough one to balance.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Cool. So, do you want to move on to the next point you have here?
Yeah. So I'm gonna go for a positive here. PvP has been surprisingly fun.
Cool.
PvP is as a mirror matchup has had its ups and downs. And the most cancerous thing in PvP, and possibly arguably all of StarCraft, is Skytoss. I'm staunchly against Skytoss, mass carriers, or really anything else, anything mass Skytoss. I don't like. Go on.
Yeah, so, okay, let me tell you, my history with PvP, and maybe you can correct me a bit, because,
Go on.
I don't, have too much experience with PvP in Legacy, because,
Okay, yeah.
I play Protoss, very casually, and, PvP
Yeah.
isn't, a regular thing I see on stream a lot. But, okay, I'm gonna go back to the Wings days. Do you
Go for
remember
it.
the Colossus Wars?
Yeah.
Okay. The Colossus Wars were really fun for me to watch, but playing it must have been horrible for you. And then
It was okay.
sorry, moving into Heart of the Swarm, it kind of died out a little, but it was still there. Void Rays were really
Yeah.
good for a while, but then people figured out that Storm is really good
Storm.
against
Yeah,
Void
yeah.
Rays, and then people just went back to Colossus Wars a bit. And
Yeah.
then it standardized out a little bit, because in Wings you couldn't even take a second base because everyone four-gated.
Yeah, that was how. Yeah.
That was how the matchup was played. It's
man.
four-gate or die.
Yeah.
And if you were lucky enough to survive the four-gate versus four-gate wars, then you would go into the Colossus Wars. And now with Legacy of the Void, it seems it's just a regular matchup.
Yeah, so there's let's go very brief history of PvP. 4-gate versus 4-gate was super strong, and that part of that was because the pylon could warp up ground
Yes.
onto high ground. It can't do that anymore. They also changed how vision works, so you had to be standing higher up on the ramp in order to get vision of the high ground to even attack. So a single sentry with a good force field would almost always stop a 4-gate long enough to get 1-2 immortals out. So that's kind of how it initially kind of changed away from the 4-gate thing and more into the Colossus Wars. Colossus Wars were weird, and I have to admit I was never amazing at them. There was a surprising amount of micro in Colossus Wars.
Yeah, no doubt.
You really wanted to lead in with your Colossus, so your Colossus was attacking their gateway army first, and let their gateway army get as close as possible before your gateway army went in, and then you try and then split during the fight. It was surprisingly intense. But yeah, then Void Rays, yeah, have always been a bit of a meh thing. Storm was always good. It was just like how well known it was. But what really happened, the carrier got popular again towards the end of Heart of the Swarm and into early Legacy. And the Oracle and shield batteries, it got to this weird state where you could be very defensive very easily as Protoss. So there was a long time after Blinkstalker Disruptor got nerfed, because Blinkstalker Disruptor was a great period in early Legacy of the Void. It was amazing. I loved that. It was my favorite kind of style. But that kind of went away because people kind of figured out that they could open an early Oracle. They could then get another Oracle or two as they expand, and put stasis wards down and get a few zealots and like shield batteries and hold off and start building void rays and hold off against like Blinkstalker timings. And of course, disruptors become useless against like void rays.
Yeah.
So we Blinkstalker Disruptor kind of got beaten out by this meta of the Oracle being a good enough harass unit while also being able to give defensive options, so that you either had to basically all in as the Blinkstalker player, because then Stalkers become so awful versus Airtoss. Or you got to the point where both players essentially mutually agreed that we're going Sky Toss and we're going to sit back for 15 minutes because
and do nothing.
you can't engage the other person and then come down to one fight.
Yeah,
which is really
like the one fight thing. Like just reminds me of the Colossus Wars from Wings.
Yeah,
it's interesting that you say like that Protoss has more defensive capabilities these days, because I think it's true. Like that was what was missing from like Heart of the Swarm and Wings, right? Is just the defensive nature like of Protoss was just not there. And that's why it became like one base, 4-gate wars.
And that's where like shield batteries are so good. Shield batteries can make a difference. And what's nice about PvP now is that it's really fallen into this like I would say realistic matchup now, where it's like there are very clear-cut builds and there are very clear-cut responses to builds. But just like with other any other matchup in StarCraft, it's like you can really try and do that build well to like, if you execute it really well, you can deal with the counter just enough to sometimes get the win out, so there's genuine tension. So like for example, Immortal Archon Zealot is like a really strong composition, mid-game composition. And you can go disruptors, and if you can get enough disruptors, you can then obviously do that. But then obviously you can split against disruptors. So you get this really weird thing. I lost a game just yesterday where I had a bunch of stalkers and a bunch of disruptors. And I was defending my third in a very close game versus a Protoss, and he was splitting like a madman to avoid these disruptor shots.
Yeah, no doubt.
And it was like one of these things where it was real down to the wire, because I had shield batteries as well, because stalkers don't output a lot of damage and they normally can't take a lot of damage, but the shield batteries were really helping, and it was really down to the wire. So yeah, it feels like not so much you can do anything, but everything that your opponent can do, you can scout and react in reasonable time. And that has made the matchup just so much more bearable. So
I'm glad you're having fun in your mirror matchup.
What is TVT not super fun?
Let me tell you. I think like so like on my side of things, like TVT has just become like my worst matchup. I think like right at this very second I have like maybe 39-40% win ratio in TVT. And I think it's just because of like the sheer amount of options that Terran has to play around with. And like I've tried and failed to basically find a build in TVT that I am comfortable with. And it's so hard to do, because like it seems like every build I try gets beaten by every other build. And it's just like I've tried like the 1 Rax Reaper expand into 3 Rax early third base. I've tried like the more standard, I guess now, like late natural and you get like 1-2 cyclones into 6 or 8 cyclones into like like
the Cyclone Wars.
the Cyclone Wars, yeah, which is the new Colossus Wars. But as I say, like there seems to be like a lot of options for Terran these days. So like I've seen anything from like cloaked banshees to like 3 gate all-ins. I mean like 3 racks all-ins. I've seen like proxies are still a thing, like a proxy Reaper, like proxy Marauder I saw the other day, which was crazy. I haven't seen that in years. And like even even if it's not cheese, like it's super super hard for attack. Like obviously, like in TVT, you want to be going like Marine, maybe Marauder, and tanks with medevacs and maybe Liberators. And like the Liberators versus like Viking Wars is like super difficult because like you have to build enough Vikings to like kill their Vikings, but not like so much that you don't have a ground army.
Supply.
Oh man, and it's like this really like fragile matchup. Positional game. I feel that like even if you have this huge advantage, like if they have like 8 medevacs, then they can just boost into your main base and just like siege up in your main base, and like at that point, like what do you do? Because if they have like 3 or 4 tanks, like in your main base sieged up, like there's literally nothing that you can do against that, because 3-4 tanks will take out like infinite Marines.
I love watching high-level Marine tank play. I hate trying to play it, man.
No doubt.
When I operate as Terran, man, TVT is like...
I really, really feel that, like, early game, I need a massive advantage to win, and in TVT, I'm just not finding it at the minute.
Did I tell you that? This is technically not last week on Ladder, because it was the week before, but I'm talking about it anyway. I was going Terran, and I was literally only for one day. I was like, I'm going to do one long session as Terran. And I just there was about 6 or 7 TVTs in there, and I just skipped them. I was just like,
oh yeah, I've seen people do that on Ladder, like get into a TVT and just quit out. I did that for a very large segment of my like StarCraft career, I guess. It's just like every time I saw a TVT, I would just quit out instantly because I just didn't enjoy the matchup.
Yeah,
it was in such a state of like disarray that I just didn't want to play it.
Yeah, I really need to learn a one base all in. That's what I did versus when I didn't like PvP. I basically just cannon rushed or
maybe I should like just do an all in or something.
Like, minimize the time you play, but like not have to take a loss every single time.
Yeah, definitely. I think I might have to look into it, to be honest, because like the matchup is. I think like if I can get that matchup into a good standard, I think like my TVZ is pretty solid. My TVP is not great, but I think is pretty solid these days. So I think like I can boost my skill level like pretty high if I can get if I can just get TVT down in my head. Like I think I can like progress really well.
Yeah. No, that's fair, man.
But I think I always have that where like. And I think, like, you probably know this, of, like, I have, like, bad sessions or bad, like, times against, like, Protoss, and I have bad times against Terrans. And it's really weird because, like, once I figure out, like, one matchup, so right now I'm struggling, like, TVT, I find that, like, I'll figure out TVT and, like, do really well TVT, but then, like, my TVP suffers like really bad, and I have to relearn that, and by the time I've relearned that, like my TVZ is really bad, so like
it's an ever-going cycle, man.
Yeah, definitely
ever-going cycle. Yeah, no, that's why StarCraft is like so enticing and so
oh yeah, definitely, because you're constantly learning, you're constantly watching VODs and like constantly watching replays just to like keep up, and I think like that's what kind of excites me, is that it keeps on changing, and like because of like the meta and like how it switches, and like you kind of have to like out meta each other, but like you know, like I was saying before, like early aggression versus Terran kind of is good unless he goes tanks, but then you can go zealots, but like you kind of have to think like how far down the meta is my opponent going to go? Because I have to go like one step further, but not one step behind, and I can't go two steps down the meta because that loses against this.
And this is why I, most of the time, do my own builds that are a bit off meta. I deal with my own problems, and I have no idea what I should be doing. It's great.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, this is why off meta builds do really well, is because like, you know, if your opponent is doing like what you would call a standard build, I guess, and you're doing an off meta thing, like you'll probably do really well because he's trying to counter like something really specific in that meta build. Like, the meta is a meta for a reason.
The only problem I have with playing off meta, because I pretty much all my matchups and all my builds are like a slightly off meta. I do them in my own way. Sometimes they're not as efficient, but I don't really care. The big problem is that sometimes a patch will come out and you're like, well, that patch doesn't affect me, because like when the Adepts got nerfed, right? I barely used Adepts when they were like at their best, where Phoenix Adept was like the go-to build. I barely used them, and I was like, okay, the Adept is getting nerfed. It won't affect me because I don't do that. Suddenly, what I didn't realize was that my build was only safe because so many Terrans were afraid of Adepts that they weren't attacking. And then now they weren't afraid, and then they were killing me.
I remember those times. Like, I was like scared out of my life to attack because like the threat of Adept Phoenix was so great that you couldn't leave your base. So like, as soon as those Adepts got nerfed, you bet that Terrans were leaving their base with like more gusto than ever before.
So be warned, the meta will change. Even if you don't play meta, if you play off meta, it will still change.
It will still affect you.
It will always affect you. Oh man. Oh.
So how have you been doing against Terran?
Yeah, not too bad. I've been playing against some mech, but I want to play. I've got a mech practice partner, and I actually want to play more with him before I figure this out. Basically, mech should die.
Okay.
That's the long and short of it.
So mech is like a weird thing because like I think that Blizzard have always tried to make it a thing in every matchup because it was like almost the go-to in TVP in Brood War, right?
Yeah.
And they always try and bring like these Brood War concepts back when like I guess they don't work as well in StarCraft 2.
No, they certainly don't.
Like, mech is an interesting one because, like, I always feel like everyone's trying to make it a thing, but it never works out.
I feel like we're slowly getting to what I think will be the StarCraft 2 era of, like, mech with, like, a bit more battle mech, a bit more harassment focused, and honestly, God, with bio mixed in. Like, I loved seeing the plays with, like, where it was like Liberator, Mine, Bio, and it's like you've got this small amount of Bio that doesn't really do much, but if it can run in, jab, it can get a few probes kills, and then it runs back to like this safe zone where it's like sieged up, and it's kind of like siege tanks were never good enough versus Protoss.
Yeah.
But like Widow Mines and Liberators made it then really awkward. Innovation was doing that style for a while, and it was like, I think that was versus Phoenix Adept as well. He would do Widow Mine, Liberator, Marine, and it was like this really weird style, and he made it work. Not everyone could, but
innovation is innovation, though. You know?
Yeah, but that concept, like, I really like it. And again, I think Banshees are an amazing unit. I think Banshees are like, they've never fully had their time to shine. And I think in the kind of battle mech future against Protoss, they definitely have a place, especially with the speed upgrade. It is just about how much we can do. Obviously, the Liberator gets a lot of work in now versus Protoss.
Yeah.
But even like a Liberator Cyclone kind of mid game, I think that's doable. I think the big problem with that is that Zealots are so good versus Cyclones that even then just Stalkers to clean up the Liberators, you don't even have to go air. I think kind of thing. So
Yeah,
even
I think like as you say, like the problem with mech against Protoss for me is the siege tank, because like the siege tank is like the unit that you need to build when you're going mech. Like any mech needs to have a good amount of siege tank, but like the siege tank is just like, I think Blizzard, like when they were conceiving of StarCraft 2, they were a bit afraid that mech was going to be too good like it is in Brood War, I guess. So they tried to make a unit, the Immortal, that kind of countered. And like, I don't think they've ever fully balanced it good enough to where the siege tank doesn't lose too hard versus the Immortal to make it worth going mech.
I think the problem, nowadays I don't think the problem is the Immortal. I do agree that in the early days where it had the old hardened shield, it was too good versus specifically tanks, but also certain other units. And now it's a bit more better balance where it's not as bad versus Zerglings, but not as great versus tanks. But I think the problem with the siege tank is more that it's only effective versus in very select situations versus Protoss. It's good versus Stalkers. That's kind of it.
Yeah.
Like, Zealots are tanky enough and fast enough with charge that they don't really care. And they sit on top of your own unit, which then the tank does splash damage to. Immortals were like say, designed for tanking it. And Archons didn't take any bonus damage or anything. I don't know. Yeah, they still don't take any bonus damage too. Of course not. No, what am I thinking? So yeah, it's mechas in this weird position where I do feel like a Terran mech versus Protoss in StarCraft 2 will not revolve around the tank. The Liberator, I think, is a lot more possible. I honestly think like a Liberator Hellbat kind of style, with maybe some Banshees thrown in there for some extra DPS. I think that's got some possibility into a battle cruiser late game. I think that's really where it is at.
So you're thinking of like more Air Terran?
Yeah, it would have to be. But like, I think Hellions and Hellbats provide a very good option for harass as well.
I think like a defensive position into battle cruisers would probably like be very strong, because I know like Nathanius does this a lot.
Yeah, Nathanius is really good at it. Ah man, that tactical jump.
Yeah. But yeah, like, you know that I've tried mech versus Protoss like a ton of times in like the length of I've been playing StarCraft for quite a number of years now, and I've tried to mech it happen so many times before.
I think a Thor style is still another option.
Yeah,
Thor's
definitely.
Really good.
I think like it could probably work, because like I was playing like Ghost Mech for a while, and like that was like really close to working, but I never got it like consistently working. But I think if I worked on it like a bit more, then I could probably make it work a bit better. But
we'll patch in the Warhound, don't worry about it.
The Warhound, oh man, the Warhound would have been perfect.
No, it wouldn't have been perfect.
No, because it was like the Mech Marauder.
It was the Mech Marauder. Yeah,
it was amazing. Oh my god, I can't believe that unit got cut so hard. That was like the perfect unit. That unit would have made mech possible versus everything.
There was a time where, and if you don't know what these are, you need to go and like look them up. Both the Warhound and the Shredder.
Oh yeah, the Shredder.
Oh my god, it was a trying time where it was like, and this was like before Zerg was like super dominant as well.
Yeah,
Terrans were like a pretty good thing.
So this is like Heart of the Swarm beta, right?
Yeah, I think
the
so.
Warhound was a thing, and the Shredder was a thing, because the Shredder was the early Widow Mine.
Yeah, it was,
and it was supposed to stop Zergling counterattacks, but it was so good.
Okay, yeah.
Like it killed roaches. It killed roaches.
To explain to you what it does, so the thing burrowed, so you needed detection to see it, to shoot it, even when it was like active. And when it was active, it was basically a Psystorm. It did 20 DPS.
Constant Sizestorm.
Constant Sizestorm in whatever area. And it was a large enough range that if a Speedling, off creep to be fair, but Speedling off creep tried to run through it, run through the diameter, it couldn't make it. So that's how, even a Speedling just could not run through. And again, roaches versus 5 marines, 5 roaches versus 5 marines, they'd get by the time the second shot was going off, they all died.
Yeah, it was so surprising. The Warhound, just to give you some context, the Warhound in the Heart of the Swarm beta, I remember playing TVT in the Heart of the Swarm beta, where it was basically Warhound, who could make the most Warhounds, because normally it's who could make the most Marines in those days, but Marines traded out for Warhounds. Literally the build was gas first, get a factory, get it onto a reactor so that you can build those Warhounds. That was the build. And then, if you had, one less Warhound, well, it's a bad day for you. Just,
Warhounds, they were a mix of a Goliath and a Thor.
Yes.
So they had an anti-air attack, but they also had an anti-mechanical attack, which was separate to their just regular straight-up attack.
Yeah.
So they could attack two units at once, or attack one unit twice. It was ridiculous.
Didn't they out DPS a Marine?
Versus an Immortal, yeah.
Oh my god.
And Stalkers, because Stalkers were mechanical.
Yeah.
But they had enough straight up damage that Charge Lots couldn't do much either. It was Charge Lot Archon wouldn't work. Archon Immortal I think was the closest thing. Archon Immortal with storms, and you had to really get magical storms off. Yeah. And then it was the Warhound was so cheap that you still wasn't.
Oh possible. Yeah, it was so cheap. It was so cheap. It was absolutely absurdly cheap. I can't remember the exact stats on it, but I think it was 100 or something really stupid like that.
I'm gonna look up right now.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember again in the Heart of the Swarm beta when the Warhound was around.
It was 150 minerals, 75 gas.
That was it, yeah. Yeah, the answer that Protosses went with at the time was actually air toss. So you'd have these weird carrier versus Warhound battles, which was the most perfect thing. Oh man, bring back the Warhound.
Here we go. But this is a one sentence that sums up. For the limited time the Warhound was in the beta, it was often the focus of early game rushes and was widely accepted as imbalanced due to its low cost, high health, and high damage.
Yep.
It had 220 health. Fuck.
Oh my god. Yeah, the Warhound was even everyone agreed that was absolutely imbalanced.
Oh man.
So unless we get that back, Mech is dead, right? So let's talk about PvZ. No.
Oh. No, I think I'm done with my PvZ stuff. I think I'm pretty much done for my ladder.
Yeah, that was our little section of us talking about the ladder this week and kind of rambling off there at the end, but I think it was good.
Yeah, good
it's
stuff.
good to go down memory lane and
the reminiscent better times.
Better times.
When we were worse players though. We were actually we were both diamond since Wings of Liberty actually.
Yeah, we've both been diamond since Wings, and then we both got into Masters early Heart of the Swarm.
Yeah,
and then went back to diamond and recently got the badge of Masters, but
got that badge, but not the MMR.
Yeah, definitely.
That's how it
so
goes.
I guess seeing as this is coming to an end,
yep.
Do you want to plug anything, Exo?
No, not really. I will be a regular guest on the show for as long as you'll have me.
I hope so.
That is my plug.
Cool. I guess the only things I want to plug is my Twitter. You can find me there at JORO550, Joro550, and of course my YouTube. If you're watching this video, I'm hoping to have a lot more videos up soonish kind of
Yeah.
new like
Tutorials and
yeah, kind of tutorials, kind of replay analysis, and sort of things like that.
wacky stuff.
Yeah, wacky stuff now and
Like,
then.
if I can contribute anything to this YouTube channel, it'll be well this and any wacky stuff I can come up with and do edits on.
I really can't wait. I hope
stuff.
it's going to be great. Anyway, I need to thank my good friend Exo Lightning here for talking to me and reminiscing with me for almost 2 hours and a quarter here.
Yeah.
It's been really fun.
It has.
And I hope to do this again soon. Probably
Yeah.
post Valencia, and
Valencia,
and then we can like replay this and say, oh yeah, we were completely wrong. Cyril won. Like
Valencia finishes Saturday. It's literally a 3-day tournament. I thought it finished Sunday.
Oh, I thought it
finished
finished
Saturday.
Interesting.
No, apparently not. I was really surprised by that. But yeah, so get on it now.
Yeah, man. Go watch Valencia. What are you doing listening to us?
Yeah, Valencia's over for today. We were like,
Yeah, no doubt. Cool. Anyway,
cool.
thanks for listening. Signing off.
Cheers.